Good morning, Year 8. This is Mr. McLeod speaking. The learning objective for today's lesson is to understand cube numbers. For the last couple of lessons we've been doing square numbers, and this skill builds on that. So on the board are your 6 starting questions. Please answer those 6 in your books. Pause the video here for 10 minutes and work through the 6 questions. Be ready with the green pen for when we go through the answers afterwards. So, pictured on the board are your 6 answers to the starter. Well done if you got those all right. Please mark in green pen. For question D, 14 over 100 is the answer, but you could have also written 0.14. That would also be fine. Please mark in green pen. Okay, so for the first I do and we do of the lesson, we have some cube number examples. The first I do says evaluate 5 to the power of 3. Remember this little 3 on the 5 means to the power of 3. And what that means when we do 5 to the power of 3 is 5 times 5 times 5 3 times. That's 5 to the power 3. So now if we calculate that, 5 times 5 makes 25, times 5 makes 125. Please copy that down in your books. Pause the video here and allow time to copy down the I do and then work through the we do independently. Okay, so for the first we do, we have 3 to the power of 3, which means 3 times 3 times 3. If you calculate that, 3 times 3 makes 9, and then 9 times 3 makes 27. So your answer should be 27. Please mark that in green pen. If you didn't get it right, please write down the solution. Okay, so the second I do and we do. First off, we start with the I do, which is 9 to the power of 3. Remember that this little 3 means 9 times 9 times 9, 3 times. So if we calculate that, we get 9 times 9 makes 81, times 9 makes 729. Please pause the video here and copy down the I do and then try the we do for yourselves. And for the we do, we have evaluate 5 to the power of 3, or 5 cubed. That's where the term cube number comes from. We have 5 to the power of 3, which means 5 times 5 times 5. 5 times 5 gives me 25. Times by 5 again gives me 125. Give yourself a tick in green pen if you got that right. We'll now move on to some independent practice where you can try some questions for yourselves. So, question 1. It says, are the following statements written in index form something to the power of 3? So what you're going to do is look at each question and say, is that something to the power of 3? So question A, is that 6 to the power of 3? Yes, it is. You're going to do that for each one. So B, is that 60 to the power of 3? Question C, is that 60 to the power of 3? And you're going to write true or false for each one. Pause the video here for 15 minutes and work through those 12 questions. Be ready to mark in green pen afterwards. So here are your answers to the past activity. Please pause the video here, mark in green pen. Well done if you got 12 out of 12. Okay, so here we have question 2 and 3. Question 2, you'll be evaluating, so that is another word for calculating. So for question A, 2A, 4 to the power of 3, write it out, so it's 4 times 4 times 4, and then tell me what that equals. Question 3, again, you'll be saying if the statement is true or false. So look at question 3A, it says 3 to the power of 3 equals 27. Is that true or false? You're going to tell me. Write in your books, please, and pause the video here for 15 or more minutes if needed to work through all of those questions. So, here I have the answers to questions 2 and 3. Please mark in green pen. Pause the video here, mark all your questions. I want to know if anyone got those all right. And lastly, we have question 4. Question 4 is the most challenging one we've seen yet. It wants you to write each as a single power. So I'll explain you through question 4A, 6 times 36. Now remember that 36 is 6 squared, or 6 times 6. So we can rewrite this whole question as 6 times 6 times 6, which would be 6 to the power of 3. Try and work through all those and see if you can write them all as a single power. Again, this is the most challenging question we've seen yet. Pause the video here for 15 minutes and work through those questions. There's quite a few for you to go at there. And finally, here are your answers. I want to know if anyone got 20 out of 20 on that one. Okay, so moving on from cube numbers, and we're now going to go to square roots. Who's heard of a square root before? So the first I do and we do have evaluate square root, that little ticky symbol that you see in, that's a square root symbol. You might want to make a note of that in your book. We have evaluate square root of 25, and for the first we do, we have evaluate square root of 49. So what is the square root? Well, it's saying evaluate square root of 25. Well, the square root of 25 is asking us what number do we square, or what number do we times by itself to get 25 as an answer? And the answer to that is 5, because 5 squared, or 5 times 5, equals 25. Therefore, the square root of 25 is 5. We're essentially working square numbers backwards. Likewise, for this one below, evaluate square root of 100. I'm looking at the second I do now. Well, I know 10 squared equals 100, or 10 times 10 equals 100. Therefore, the square root of 100 equals 10. Working backwards from our square numbers. Please pause the video here, copy down both I do's, make any notes that you need, and then try both we do's by yourself. So, for the first two we do's of the square root part of the lesson. Firstly, we have evaluate square root of 49, which again is asking us what number do we times by itself to get 49 as an answer? The answer is 7. 7 squared equals 49. So square root of 49 equals 7, working backwards. And square root 64, well, 8 times 8 equals 64, or 8 squared equals 64. So the square root of 64 is 8. Give yourself a tick and green pen if you got that right. If you didn't get it right, that's okay. Just make sure to write down the correct solutions in green pen, please. 2 more examples, with the first I do being square root of 121. Now I'm thinking, what number do I times by itself to get 121? Well, 11 times 11, or 11 squared, is 121. So the square root of 121 is 11. The we do is a little bit of a trick question. Please pause the video here, copy down the I do, and then try the we do yourselves. So you see for the we do, square root of 1, the answer is just 1. Well, that's because 1 times 1, or 1 squared, is 1. So well done if you got that right. Please tick in green pen, or write it down if you didn't do it. So for some questions. There's 10 questions there. I'd like you to pause the video, work through. That should take you no longer than 10 minutes. Work through these 10, and then we'll mark in green pen afterwards. Okay, so for the answers. Square root 81 equals 9. Square root of 1 equals 1. Please go through all of these, tick them if you got them right, correct them if you got them wrong, make sure to do it in green pen, and be ready to move on to the next questions. So, getting a little bit more challenging now. We've got to find the value of x for these questions. So the first I do says, what is the value of x? And it says square root of 36 equals x. So I need to work out the square root of 36. Now I know that 6 times 6 makes 36, or 6 squared makes 36. So this x, this missing number x, must be 6. The next one's a bit different than we do. It says the square root of x equals 6. What number square rooted equals 6? Who can tell me? Write in your books. So of course for the we do, square root of something equals 6. Well, I already know that the square root of 36 equals 6. 6 squared equals 36. Square root of 36 equals 6. Give yourself a tick in green pen if you got it right. Put it right if you didn't. And for the last two, I do and we do. The first one says, what is the value of x? And it's square root of x equals 12. Well, the square root of x equals 12. So what number will be under that square root? What square root equals 12? So I can do 12 squared. 12 squared, 12 times 12 equals 144. So it must be 144 under this square root. Please copy that down in your books and then try the we do for yourselves. We'll go through the answer in a minute. So lastly, square root of x equals 9. Well, 9 times 9 equals 81. So the square root of 81 must equal 9. So x equals 81. Make sure to tick in green pen if you got it right. So for the last set of questions for the lesson, there's 15 questions there, all on square roots. You're finding the value of x. So x is a missing number. On each of these questions, I want you to tell me what x is. Write it in your books, please. Pause the video here and work through those questions for as long as you need. We'll go through the answers afterwards. So on the board are your answers. Go through them, tick them in green pen, and check if you made a mistake where you went wrong. I want to know who got 15 out of 15. Thank you for listening today, Year 8. I hope you understood all that, and I'll see you again soon.